Welcome back to the Shacknews Awards. We are going to be talking about the Shacknews Award for the best PlayStation 5 game, best PS5 game of the year 2024. And this category includes third-party releases or timed exclusives, but also first-party games. So in case you're wondering why certain games were nominated, it just had to be a game that was released on PlayStation 5 this year. That's the only thing you had to do to be eligible for this category. And also be good, right? Probably helps. So let's get to the nominees, and then we'll get to talking to them. And then we'll do a little bit of voting. Sound like a plan? Let's go. Our first nominee is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Next up, Helldivers 2. Astrobot. Black Myth Wukong. Metaphor Refantasio. And the last but not least nominee is Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. Who'd like to get this kicked off? Ozzy, I see you leaning forward a little bit to talk about Final Fantasy. Would you like to chime in here?
I mean, I was never a PlayStation kid, but I know that Final Fantasy VII was one of the tentpoles of that original PlayStation era as we're celebrating the 30th anniversary. And something that I really liked about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is it takes what it started in Remake. Remake was all about like kind of setting the tone for what's to come, and Rebirth opens it up in a big way, and it brings the RPG mechanics to like a whole series of other regions, adds about 50 hours worth of story, and brings that story all together in a very satisfying way at the end. We can argue that it's padded a little bit, and that's fair to say. But it really sticks the landing, and I really enjoyed getting to the end of this game and seeing how it all comes together to sort of recreate that feeling that you got when you first played this game all the way back in like the late 90s. So I'm really interested to see where else this goes, and it does take advantage of the PlayStation 5 in a lot of ways, including with the DualSense and everything else. But I also see how it's doing on the PS5 Pro, and it's just like, okay, I couldn't imagine this game looking any better than it does, but wow, apparently it does get better for people who took the $800 plunge.
Ozzy, you were saying off camera that the last 2 hours were very satisfying, but getting there could be a big chore. True or false?
True. Absolutely true.
So while we're litigating this, you're a Kingdom Hearts fan.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if I should trust your opinion on the ending.
No, the ending is great, dude. I
don't know, man. As somebody
you're listening to Greg and how much he hated Kingdom Hearts 3.
I don't know.
I didn't even play it. That's how much I hated it. I didn't play it.
As someone who's played the original Final Fantasy VII and knows how that story ends, and now knows how Rebirth ends, they Kingdom Hearts the hell out of this, dude.
They
took the Kingdom Hearts brush to this real hard, really hard. And David, I see your eyes working up. I want to bring this up here.
The issue with the game, and the remake had the first problem, is that it doesn't know when to stop the gauntlet of fighting, and it keeps going, and it goes on way too long, and they shoehorn in characters that don't need to be shoehorned in. Like, just having that one boss fight and the ending would have been plenty. I didn't need to play with
battles like
a gauntlet and go to Zack that it didn't even make sense because they didn't know each other. Like, they never knew each other. It makes no sense. Why do I care? Like, it was weird. It was just really, and it dragged on.
And we're sort of diving into not spoilery territory now, but I'm someone that didn't play the original, and when he got to Zack, I'm like, oh, we're following this up from Crisis Core.
Yeah,
that was what I got out of it. So I wasn't even aware that they hadn't met at that point.
Once again, Ozzy further embracing the Kingdom Heartsification of this Final Fantasy VII series,
which is so funny.
Like, I love this mobile game from 3 years ago that had this one character. I'm like, exactly my point. There was a battle royale game built on this too. Like, they may have gone too far here, is all I'm saying. I just wanted to bring up the counterpoint to this because I don't know. Maybe I have a fellow podcast member who's been talking about this game every week for the entire year, and maybe he doesn't like it. So
shout out to producer Joe.
Yeah, producer Joe out there is screaming at his YouTube device right now. So I wanted to at least speak on his behalf here, because as someone who liked the story in the original Final Fantasy VII,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I like the story in Rebirth. I'm not.
It's so funny that they take so many narrative liberties with Remake and Rebirth, and
Yeah.
yet like they suggest that you play Crisis Core before you get here, and they leave Crisis Core untouched. Like that story is like exactly the same, which is kind of funny to me because it shows how powerful that story can be if you just leave it the way it is.
Mhm.
But we take some liberties here and there, although we'll disagree with the quality of some of those changes because don't hate me because I kind of liked what they did with Barrett. I'm sorry.
Barrett and Dwayne, or just Barrett?
Barrett and what's his face? Shoot, I don't even remember his name. But and then well, I'll get to it in the voice actor category. But like the stuff that they do with Barrett in this game, I thought I really appreciate. I really liked.
No, that stuff's fine. That stuff's from 7.
Yeah,
like he messes up. It's a redemption story for him.
I have nothing bad to say about Barrett ever. So I will not hear Barrett slander. I may hit my gavel if people want to do that, but no. My beef is more, I don't want to I don't want to talk about spoilers. I might disagree with Ozzy's opinion of the ending of the game is all I'm saying. And I think Greg's point about Remake, the first entry in this trilogy of Final Fantasy VII games, that are the Remake trilogy. I think your points about the pacing and the stacking of boss battles on top of each other, it got worse in Rebirth, Greg.
Yeah, it amplified.
And I get why they did it. Is like a parody almost.
Mm-hmm.
And I get why they did it too, because you make this like environment, right? And like you don't want to be in there. Like a lot of the environments in 7, you're there for like 5 minutes and you move on because they're just 2D pre-rendered backgrounds. Doesn't take arguably doesn't take as much time as making a whole city with mini quests and side quests. They want stuff to do. They want it to feel alive. So that's why they did it. But yeah, it doesn't make it good. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm. But and I do like that they kind of tried to dodge like one of my pet peeves of games where it's like, I spent 40, 50 hours leveling up this character. Are you telling me they don't even factor into the final fight? And Rebirth uses everybody at the end. So it's like, okay, you got around that. I thank you.
I'm still of the opinion that Chadley is the final boss of everything. So we'll see if I'm right.
I look forward to seeing if you're right.
We'll have to wait 5 years and then play it on the PS6.
I think they want to go faster than that.
God, I hope so.
I think we may hit another problem. This is a problem for future Square Enix, but I think we might hit an issue where like the next one feels rushed.
Oh.
I think done.
That's never happened in the Kingdom Hearts series, so.
Oh no! Don't bring Kingdom Hearts into this.
I'm sorry, I can't help but see it. I have to call it out now because this game's in other categories too. Now, admittedly, it deserves to be in the best music category. Yes. There's other categories. This game excels at. So I don't want to just come off as someone who's hating on it. I just wanted to put out.
You need a day at the Gold Saucer, also.
I need a month at the Gold Saucer.
Go play the Star Fox minigame.
Yeah, okay. I don't want to play the 50 hours to get to it. Talk about a game that just throws you into the game, Sam. I know that you're a fan of this franchise. And earlier this year, Helldivers 2 kind of took over the world and was a PlayStation darling for about a month or two, right?
Yeah, that's right. Helldivers 2 absolutely dominated the conversation online, offline, Discord, wherever. Anyone had to play. Everyone had to play, really. And yeah.
We're talking about the PlayStation 5 game of the year here. And I think that like most people who have I think everyone who has a PlayStation 5 to play online, you need a PlayStation account, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that big fumble that happened later this year when they said, "Hey, all you PC players, you can't play this game without a PlayStation Online account now," and they ruined. They had already launched it in 60 geographies that didn't have PlayStation Network. It was a huge screw up. I don't think that should be a blemish. Like I think it's a fumble and it's a blemish, but when in this category, I think it's still fair to be here.
Oh, absolutely. Because I mean, it's not as if it's not a developer choice; it's a Sony requirement.
Mm-hmm.
So, Arrowhead, that's not necessarily their decision to go. You know what? Let's just let's piss off the majority of our player base, right? So
Mhm.
ignoring that fiasco, which has been dialed back but still unavailable in some countries where PSN is no longer available. Looking at the game itself that launched, it's undeniable how popular it was.
Mhm.
And it's undeniable how incredible the game is from taking the first game in the series, well, that is now a series, and putting a brand new twist on it. The first one was like a top-down isometric, and now this Helldivers 2 is a third-person shooter, which completely changes how you actually feel in that. You're way more involved. The bugs feel huge. The robots that you're fighting feel completely indomitable, like Terminators.
Feels
And
like an
there's
action
something-
movie,
Yeah, it's like an action movie, like a 80s, 90s action movie.
like Gears of War. That
Yeah,
franchise. It felt
yeah,
like
teaming up with 3 other friends and just like diving into these planets against odds that the odds are that you're probably going to fail, and you're going to fail spectacularly, and it's going to be explosive. The sound design in this game is incredible. The weapons feel so cool. The progression and upgrading your gear, getting new gear. Yeah, it's very generous, and
I also think the locomotion is outstanding. Like the different options you have when it comes to like when you're prone or when you're on your back, being able to aim and shoot, throw a grenade off of your back. Like I just think the optionality that they give the player was quite noticeable. It feels good to play that game mechanically.
It's very stressful in the best way possible. Like when you're the last one on your squad and you have to call down reinforcements, which literally means you open up your data pad and you have to input a directional pad or a key binding, like left,
combo.
right, up, down, left, right, or whatever it is,
Mhm.
and you call your allies down at the last second because a Bile Titan's coming in, and it's like everything's popping off. It's
Mhm.
a level of intensity not matched in other co-op shooters.
Yeah, a game hasn't made me feel like that since Gears of War 3. So yeah, and obviously different era, so different technology behind the two. Clearly, Helldivers 2 is a much more polished experience than those first 3 Gears, but I feel like they scratch that same itch. And then yeah, like the narrative of the game, like creating this like space nationalism and all that stuff, like they really lampoon American culture to a pretty decent extent.
Yeah, it's satire perfected, really, with
It was
Helldivers.
Paul Verhoeven's Starship Troopers, right? That's what they pulled. Obviously, so much inspired them from that.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's obviously a parody of the like the military industrial complex, and all that stuff. So I think they did a pretty good job of that. Like their videos have been funny throughout the year and stuff. So yeah, I know that they're probably not going to win. I think they still have a cloud over them because of the decisions made by Sony, but they're very deserving of a nomination in this category. And it was like earlier this year, it was you couldn't go anywhere without hearing about it, and it was all over the place. You had popular streamers were playing it all the time, and yeah, it's
The servers were overloaded. You
400,000 people on Steam when it released on PS4. That's only a Steam metric. That at its peak it was like 422,000. It's just huge.
It's safe to say there were millions of people trying to play it every weekend, Greg, because like it was hard to get into for
the servers were getting blasted.
Like the first 4 weeks. It was like almost impossible to play it, and then they finally scaled up because I don't think they that was the other thing. I don't think they expected this game to be a success like it was.
No,
because to
the
Sam's
first
point,
one
it
was a
wasn't.
niche.
Yeah, it wasn't a huge IP.
Yeah,
but
it
to
was
take
popular,
this IP
but
and apply it to like a new genre and have it land like this, it was all very impressive. So yeah, shout out to Arrowhead.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that there's a cloud over it still. TJ, you got to review this delightful game earlier this year called Astrobot. And
Yes.
I want you to tell the folks at home how great Astrobot is before we all chime in and say how great Astrobot is.
I love this game in a way, like I wish this game had been on the PS5 day one, and like it should be the game that is packaged with every single PS5 from that day forward. I don't know why they haven't done it yet, but they should, because it's like the penultimate. It's now the penultimate all ages platformer for PlayStation.
Mhm.
It's charming. It's beautiful. The music is so fun. There's so many gameplay elements that take full advantage of the PlayStation 5's technology. You can even play the game without using the there's options. I remember also one of the turnoffs for you right away was like the idea that you might have to play with the DualSense. And then I found those options that let you play without it. And
Mhm.
that's like a nice workaround for the people that hate the DualSense controller. And
Yeah, the the adaptive triggers or like the vibration mechanics or whatever that are in the DualSense, like some of them aren't really translated one-to-one to their third-party controllers. I use a Victrix BFG when I'm playing on PlayStation. So yeah, adding that is huge for accessibility. And yeah, very appreciated for sure.
the level theming and like the worlds that you explore, every single level is so vastly different from every other one. And like, yeah, you do some of the same stuff, but everyone has kind of a little gimmick of its own that just makes it all the more charming as you try to get to the end. And then there's like the cameo bots. This is like a massive celebration of PlayStation history where you get to see all these characters from PS1 to PS5 that have kind of made up the grandiose history of the franchise. And I think Astrobot is like the perfect place to celebrate all that. Like, it's almost like, what if Funko Pops were good?
Oh man, that's I guess a person can dream. But
Yeah, I could say I could
I
go
mean,
on forever
I
about
just
this game,
want
but
to,
ultimately I gave it a 10 out of 10, and I
yeah,
feel very good about that.
yeah. You gave it a 10, and like just as someone who's played, maybe half of it or a third of it or whatever, you're literally flying a PS5 around in the game. It's a PS5 spaceship. Like you have to rebuild your spaceship at a crash site, and like every single PlayStation IP you can think of, including Astrodad, or sorry, not Astrodad, Octodad
Mm-hmm.
from Dadliest Catch is in this game. And that's like a deep cut PS4 indie launch title. Like the amount of references in this game, I think it would be very hard to vote for another game in this specific category in this year. Cause like I said it, I don't know when, but like congratulations, Sony. Like you have a mascot now for your PlayStation brand, and they're awesome. Like so, yeah, I don't really have much more to add other than yeah, the music's outstanding. It really flexes what makes the PlayStation console materially better than say I'll say it, than Nintendo Switch. Like it's graphically more impressive. There's more things happening on screen than you've seen in most Nintendo games. So I think it is like it's a direct shot at Nintendo in some places. It always helps when you steal the best Mario mechanic ever, which is the jetpack from Super Mario Sunshine. But other than that, it's great. So yeah, no, I think that's a very worthy nomination. Does anyone else have love and flowers they want to give to Astrobot right now, or should we move on to the next nominee?
So much, but I'll save it for I think another category where it makes
Yeah.
more sense.
There will be a lot more to say about Astrobot.
Oh yeah, this is not the only category for Astrobot this year, nor should it be. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Astrobot on our top 24 list of the best games of the year either. So things to look forward to for the folks at home. Sam, are you playing Black Myth Wukong on PC?
I am playing it on PC.
Okay. But you can speak to the game
I can speak to the
general.
quality of the game in general.
Yeah.
And maybe we can also apply these to the PlayStation 5 version of it.
Yeah. I've heard that it runs very well on the PlayStation 5. I've even heard it runs well on the PlayStation Portal, which is that little handheld that you can remotely play PlayStation games on. So yeah, I don't think performance is an issue, at least at this point. But I know that you're probably the biggest fan of this game.
It's a phenomenal game, and if you've not played it yet, I don't know what you're doing, because just on Steam alone, it hit 2.4 million users concurrent.
Mhm.
That's it's a single player game. The only other games that manage to hit those ones are like PUBG and the CS:GO and like all these massive multiplayer games, and yet Black Myth Wukong came out of nowhere and
Yeah.
surprised and amazed so many people. If you're talking about action adventure games, this is like Souls-like meets maybe God of War. You play as a monkey. It's great.
Like, I think that Westerners have largely missed something about why this game has done well. In that the story that's being told in this game it's Chinese mythology. It's a story that's been told over and over again in their culture. There's children's stories that take place in this. There are more adult based stories that are based in this universe in China, and the story's been told across generations. So it's a big cultural moment for Chinese people all around the world. And it's been executed very well by those standards. And there's a lot of Chinese people who play video games in 2024, and I just think that's something that a lot of people have missed out about this game, and why it's so significant in this year is that yeah, we get God of War and it's Norse mythology or it's Greek mythology. But it does say something about representation, that we're getting like a Chinese myth and it's being handled extremely carefully by a studio that cares about that. And it turned out pretty well. It may not be the kind of game that I would enjoy. The boss rush kind of style of it kind of is not really for me. But as someone who like is all about Souls, Sam, like I see how you took to it. It's not a Souls like.
Correct.
But it definitely draws some inspiration from those.
Correct.
It's also graphically stunning, right?
Oh, it's beautiful. In terms of like good-looking games, you can't look past Black Myth Wukong this year. It's beautiful. Not only, like you said, the story, but visually, the combat's beautiful as well. Just the way everything sort of flows together, and the spells that you can use mid-combat, and like the combos that you can pull off. Yeah, it's up there this year.
Yeah. No, I think it's a very worthy nominee. I'm gonna have to just download it for PS5 myself, because obviously we have to play this, at least for consideration for some of the other categories as well. I've been watching your streams though, because Sam, like you're my go-to person, like to watch games that I don't want to play, but I'd like to see someone play it well. So like Destiny 2, for instance, I live vicariously through you during those raid streams. And same with this on Fridays here in America, watching you stream Wukong has been entertaining. Because it's not easy either, man. It's a pretty challenging game, right?
Yeah, it's got some roughness to it. Got some edges, yeah.
Yeah, nice. A worthy nominee. Another one here. I believe Donovan, you reviewed this one. Metaphor Refantasio. Did you played that on Xbox, right? For your
I did play it on Xbox, and I love this game. I'm saying its praises in every category it's put in, but I think that I would vote for it for Xbox game before PS5 game, just for really one key reason. I'm sure it's great on PS5, but I did play it on the Xbox console.
I am playing it on PS5. It runs perfectly fine there. It's the same excellent game that you played. It's just on PS5.
Yeah. And I guess maybe I might need a fact check here, but weren't like the Persona games, those are like synonymous with PlayStation, right? Were those always on both?
They were timed exclusives, I think, at the very least. But like Persona 5, for instance, released on PlayStation 4 before it released anywhere else. And then we got sorry, what the hell's that thing called? Royal. We got Persona 5 Royal.
Yeah.
And that started releasing on other systems. So Sega and Atlas have kind of figured out that, hey, we should probably release these games on more platforms so more people can play them.
And they've gone back and done that. That's what's interesting about that franchise. It's very Demon Souls-y, where like it used to be a small niche and then got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, which is kind of cool to see, seeing that evolve and grow over the last decade.
Yeah, but then they go and they make a not Persona game. So it's like a whole new universe and story that can be told, and it's a little less like the Persona series in a way. But yeah, I don't know. We'll talk about metaphor in a lot of other categories. I agree that this is a pretty stacked category, the best PlayStation 5 game.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably there's like an exclusive or two that are in this list that I just think are like, how can you pick metaphor over them in this category? I think it'd be tough. But at the same time, it's one of my favorite games to come out this year. And it's another 10 out of 10 that's sitting here in this nominee list. So, wow.
True.
When people are like, "It wasn't a great year for games," I'm like, did you not play Astrobot or Metaphor? Because they're pretty great.
Yeah.
Helldiver's pretty great. Sam seems to really like Wukong.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, another 10 out of 10 here at Shacknews. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth came out very early in this year. And yeah, another a solid ending to that. The saga, I think it's 3 or 4 games long at this point. But yeah, the Like a Dragon franchise has never been doing better, and it runs very well on the PlayStation. And that's another one, Donovan, to your point, it kind of like found its home on the PlayStation platform, the last generation, but now it's like being ported all over the place. I think Kiwami is on Switch now, and it sold like extremely well. So yeah, like the Yakuza series is probably in the best place it's ever been right now. And
Really firing on all cylinders with that series. I
Mhm.
think they've created a very good, I guess, system and rhythm for themselves. Like, we talk every year about how development cycles are getting longer, and we're getting like one entry in a franchise per console at this point. But they're pumping these Yakuza games out, but they still feel worthwhile. They don't feel cheap. The characters, story always feel authentic. And Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth was one of those early January titles, I believe,
Mhm.
early in the year titles that we were like, okay, this is one of those ones, that at the end of the year, this is still going to stand as one of the best games of the year, and it's
yeah,
managed
you
to
have
do
to
that.
like in this industry, you have to like in the games media, you have to like remember to write these
Yeah.
games down in January, like Prince of
We've
Persia:
made a
The Lost
practice of
Crown.
that now.
Yeah, we have a spreadsheet and everything, and we talk about it once a week because it makes this time of year so much easier when you don't have to be like, oh yeah, let's go look at the release date. No, we have it right there for us, and this was one that when it came out, we wrote it down, and it's definitely a worthy nomination here. But I think we should probably get to voting. What do you guys say?
Let's do it.
Cool.
Down.
I'm gonna start. Sorry, where am I? Here I am. I'll start with David. David, what's your favorite? What do you think the best PS5 game of the year was?
I really like hearing about all the games in this category, especially the ones I didn't have as much experience with. But I have to go with Astrobot. It's the game I've played the most this year. It's the game I keep coming back to. Platforming is my favorite genre, so yeah, it's Astrobot for me.
What's interesting about that last statement you made is that, yeah, you love platforming, but 3D platforming is not always your jam. So for a
No,
3D platformer to grab you like this, it speaks to how great of a game it is all I'm saying.
yeah.
Because I know that like not every 3D Mario hits with you, or some of these other ones that come out may not be like your jam, like Kirby and the Forgotten Land or whatever. But I do think there's a lot of similarities between Kirby and the Forgotten Land and Astrobot in
Mhm.
the best way possible when I say that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I totally understand that vote. I wouldn't be surprised if we have a unanimous vote here. Donovan.
Astrobot.
Yeah. Greg.
Astrobot.
Yeah. TJ.
Sweep.
Astrobot.
Thank
Sweep.
you. I was waiting for it. Astrobot. Ozzy.
Astrobot.
Mm-hmm. Bill.
Actually,
Oh, there goes the pizza party.
I don't think there is a pizza party.
Party on the line here.
I like how everything we do now, Greg is like pizza party on the line.
He's like, it's
Greg,
unanimous.
you
Not the
get
I literally
pizza.
had to bring out the gavel for that. I'm like, no pizza party.
No, it's Astrobot for sure. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Sorry. Sam.
As much as I love Helldivers 2 and Black Myth Wukong, recognized game, it's got to be Astrobot.
Steve.
Yeah, I gotta give it to Astrobot also.
Wow.
We did it.
Yeah, there were no Nintendo games in this category.
Denny also voted for.
That is right.
Oh, nice.
have
The
his-
absentee ballot is a total sweep. I love seeing it. Love seeing the sweeps.
Well, I could ruin it here, Greg. I
don't-
won't.
No, I don't.
won't,
I
'cause
don't.
Astrobot
You're out of
was
order.
delightful.
Zach, you also love Astrobot.
You're out of order.
Yeah, I'm like, I wouldn't do that. Astrobot's great. I will say, like, it hasn't landed with me as someone who does I like a lot of 3D platformers, so I see inspiration in it from a lot of other games. Where I think it's safe to say that if you're a PlayStation fan, you might have missed out on some really, really good platformers over the years. Whereas I'm kind of a student of the genre, and I think Astrobot does a really good job of tipping its cap to some of the greatest 3D platformers in history, even Nintendo games. So yeah, it's an absolutely wonderful game, and Team Asobi did a great job. And in a year where PlayStation was in desperate need of something to rally around, they got this video game mascot in this delightful game, and they're adding updates to it, like the speedrun stuff. It's great. So congratulations, Sony. You have a mascot, and you have a new Shacknews Award for the best PlayStation 5 game of the year 2024. Astrobot.